Hi, welcome again to this channel on magnetic energy technology, principles, applications. This video is about magnetic energy and perpetual motion. So, just a quick disclaimer, this is very alternative information. And when I'm talking about perpetual motion, obviously the hardware, if there's hardware involved, like the units on the website have bearings, they have, things that can go wrong. Let's just keep the idea of perpetual motion relative to the hardware and how long it can last. And the purpose of this video is to show how tapping into etheric energy and magnetic energy with the proper technology provides you with a very reliable source of energy and source of power. The universe, this is an overstatement, but I think it's still pertinent to this whole topic. The universe runs on magnetic resonance, and the etheric energy that is available to us is unlimited. But one of the problems that you'll see with various over unity devices that are electrically based is their power fluctuations are very erratic. They will even match lunar cycles. They'll vary from day to day, from night to day, from location on the planet. And there's a lot of variables that will change the overall efficiency of those units or of those circuits. And this from the magnetic energy point of view, this is an indicator that those are not properly tapping the etheric field. If you'll notice in the magnetic units, for example, we never have an electromagnet in any of the units, and we don't have any electrical circuitry or components in any of the units. Because an electromagnet, as soon as you have that technology, you're already creating etheric resistance with that. And so we want to have no resistance, no etheric resistance. In fact, what we're doing is we are creating an etheric flow of energy that is free flowing and based on attract. So if anything, we end up with too much of that etheric energy, and we have to kind of limit how much is coming in. The other thing is that when you achieve certain pulse rates and you attract that energy into your units, it's very important to understand that you have to be neutral, and I've said that in so many ways, but let's get into a couple of the concepts behind this. So say, for example, you have a rotor with a number of magnets on it. It could be even 84 magnets, and then you have a number of coils. In this particular case, we'll just imagine that they're generator coils. So there may be 100 or 104 of those. You may spin the magnets or the coils, that doesn't necessarily matter, but the magnets will always be in alternating polarity, and what we're doing is we're utilizing the inflow and outflow of those magnets to create a magnetic resonance, what you would call like a transient magnetic resonance in those coils. So if you picture a coil passing a magnet, just a copper coil, for example. And the nice thing about the website is we've already done the work, a lot of the work, so that you know the strength of the magnets, the size of the coil wire, the number of turns, and everything else to get this perfect balance. So imagine that magnet passing that coil and maybe the north side of it, and it's creating this vortex, and then another south face then enters into the picture. It creates the opposite vortex into that coil. So imagine that happening very, very fast. And those coils, because they're transient magnetic resonance collectors and emitters, essentially, they'll start to form a pulse rate that has a neutral property to it. Now, the nice thing about that is once those coils start to sing at a resonance, and there's a lot of different resonance frequencies that you can tap into that will bring in etheric energy, as long as the balance between the polarities saturates the coil equally, you'll create what's almost like a standing wave to where the pulse starts happening in the coil. And let me just back up for 1 second. The composition of the magnets is really important. And rare earth magnets are often what we will use because there's more similarity in the composition of those rare earth magnets to like a copper, to something in copper, than there is compared to other magnets. And you may say, well, that has nothing to do with it. But the thing is, on a subatomic level, and if you start imagining that there's core structures to subatomic elements, such as the components, subatomic components, such as the electron, proton, neutron, and there's core structures to those, we're really depending on some similarities happening between what's happening subatomically in the magnets and then in the coil. And that's so critical because if we didn't have a little bit of similarity into it, we couldn't transfer that energy. So once the coils have become pulsing, once they are starting to pulse and they are attracting etheric energy, that energy signature in those coils now is different than what's in the magnets. And that is, that energy signature in those coils is totally useful to then be circuited to like paramagnetic or diamagnetic materials, like a rotor, for example, that we can then make that rotor have given polarities. So we'll start neutral, we'll get the coil singing, and then we can channel energy off of those coils, give it a polarity with a magnet face if we need to, and get it into a rotor, like a paramagnetic rotor or a diamagnetic rotor. It depends on what the purpose of it is. So that could be either like aluminum or it could be magnesium. It depends on what we're trying to do with it. But at that point now we have a very transient polarity change capability happening. So all of that would be like with a generator coil. And keep in mind, whenever we're talking about a generator coil, we need a series of coils that can take in a neutral type of energy, an etheric energy that comes in unpredictably. So almost always, if you have a set of generator coils, you're going to have some sort of jumper wires or some sort of circuitry that allows the interconnectivity of those coils to take place so that you never get one overloading or one like not responding, or an area that's essentially lower in energy than another area. But once we have harnessed that energy, like in the generating coils, then we can add polarities and we can control the circuitry better. We can control the pulse rate to where then we're getting into driving coils. And those coils will have very specific polarities in them that we control on and off, so that we have torque, so that we have power to drive. And we can drive those against magnets or whatever we need to do. So it's really important to understand that even the the etheric manifestation of energy in those coils has a signature in it, and that energy signature is then compatible with the other paramagnetic or diamagnetic materials that you might use. So it's readily accepted by those. The whole process flow that happens in one of these units is always under pressure. It's a pressure that's created from an attract field. So even as the energy enters into the unit, it's always looking for its eventual escape. And this gets a little crazy and a little deep, but and I won't even touch on the consequences of what I'm about to say. You can figure that out for yourself. At a subatomic level, etheric energy is mostly neutral, but it has built into it a lot of polarities, if you will, polarities that it may be attracted to or that may draw in, that are less dominant than the neutral component, but will help guide it to its destination, to where it's ultimately going to go. And that's about all I want to say on that, because the consequences of me saying that are quite dramatic if you're even catching what I'm saying. So Imagine that in the unit we have energy coming in, it's already looking for an escape route, it's under pressure flow, and that etheric pressure that's happening like throughout the earth and our environment, throughout the solar system, throughout the universe, that pressure and that ability to come in, it is at a very, very high rate, or magnetic resonance, if you will. That is an incredibly reliable source of energy. Once you have made that connection, not only is it 100% always reliable 24/7, it is perpetual motion in the sense that as long as the universe is running the way that we understand it, that device, given mechanical issues, that device will continue to run perfectly as well. The idea of it going off and on or fluctuating and all that, that's not really an issue when you are tapping the etheric energy on a tract. It is very, very 100% reliable. And not only that, but when we advance beyond this industrial age of this technology and move more into like the crystal technology, where there are no moving parts, and those crystals are programmed to receive certain etheric energy and then convert that to a usable form of energy that we can do a whole number of things with, that becomes like 100% reliable in the sense that there aren't even any moving parts. And so the coils and the magnets, again, the magnets are just a conduit of energy. And then we're using the other materials such as copper or aluminum or magnesium or special alloys that receive that etheric energy, that flow. We're using those in exactly the right way to produce a resonance that then draws in the energy. The magnets already have the energy flowing through them, but the problem with that energy is we need it to be in other forms so that we can use it easier. For example, it's easier to generate and collapse a magnetic field when you're controlling that energy in a paramagnetic or a diamagnetic or an alloy type of material. We can control those fields and make them build and collapse instantly. And that gives us the ability to drive units and control the timing and the release of that energy. And then at the same time, we are always providing a way out for that energy. And that might be to ground, or that might be to a conversion to another process, to another unit. But one way or another, that energy has to leave that unit and essentially get recycled back into the magnetic stream, into the earth stream, the universal stream. So I hope that helps a little bit in terms of perpetual motion and how you can really achieve what might be considered a type of perpetual motion, at least with magnetic energy and with magnetic technology. Something that is super reliable, that is not only applicable on the planet, but out in space or wherever you're going to go with it. And with that, we'll see you next time.